following all the principles and like that. So we immediately thought of southern India because in South India, the Vaishnava culture is still relatively strong, it's relatively intact. So anyway, we're going to go after Janmāṣṭamī. They're going to pour me into a plane and find a place and get the other monks over as soon as possible and start working, on establishing our community there. And we've got some good practice now. We've done it in 3 different places so far, and so we got the moves down. We know how to pack, we know how to travel, we know what to do when we get there. We've got a whole plan, and we also want to involve our community members in this, and we're going to talk about that seriously at the Janmāṣṭamī festival. If you are going to attend the Janmāṣṭamī festival, then you have been invited to join a group on the India Land Trust. If you check your messages on our community site, you'll find that you have an invitation. You should join that group and you should read that discussion, because we're trying to reach consensus as to how we're going to organize so that other devotees can also come over and buy land nearby our monastery. We're going to have a few acres of land and some cows and a big garden and like that. And so we want to invite all of our community members to come over there and get their own place nearby. And let's work out this whole community thing. And we want to be nearby a nice temple town with lots of Vaishnavas, so that people who come to our place can actually get a taste. They can actually get experience of how Vaishnavas relate to one another in a community setting. And not just our group, but a bigger group, like a whole village. We want to be nearby a village where people are still living in the traditional ways, where they still have healthy spiritual relationships amongst each other. And so you can see that, so you can get the reality of it. So, like I did. I lived in India for a long time, more than 10 years. And because of that, and I traveled everywhere in India. And I saw many, many different places. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't like at all. So I know what's there. And I know we can find a situation where the very things that we need to learn are in abundance in the environment. We don't have to create, like here in Chile, it's like we have our own little bubble. We don't really associate much with other people. We don't go outside our comfort zone very much at all, just to the store and like doing essential business and stuff like that. But in India, I want to be in a place where you can go out in the marketplace and meet nice people. We can actually have a nice relationship with the surrounding community. I think that's more healthy than trying to be off by ourselves somewhere and try to be totally isolated. I mean, in a sense, it was good for us to get our little group together, to be off by ourselves, just 5 guys and up in the hills. That's helped us to glue our little group together. But now we're talking about a community. That means something that's open, something that has relationships with the surrounding community, not so isolated. So this is one of the many aspects of our strategy. What else? So we're going to be leaving here after Sunday satsang and going up to Santiago, taking care of visa business, all that traveling business. And I'll be there. I'll be coming first. And after that, then Naviovan, I think. You're coming in a couple of days after me. And then the rest of the guys like a week later. And we are I don't know how we're going to keep preaching somehow or other. We're going to be in touch. Of course, we always have internet connection. So now we have this smartphone. So wherever we go, we're always going to be linked in. We're not ever going to be totally offline, but we might miss a few darshans. That's what happens when you're on the road. Okay, so this is a good time for you to ask your questions about our plans and about this whole thing about are we going to do communities or are we not going to do communities has been confusing to a few devotees. In general, you see, you have general instructions that are for everybody and that are always in force. Like everybody should chant. But then you have other instructions that are like details or relative instructions that sometimes apply and sometimes don't apply, or apply to different people. Like some people should chant the Varṇāśrama mantra if they're not fixed up in the regulative principles. And others who are more experienced and who are more fixed up, they can chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You see? That's the particular or detailed instruction. Whereas the general instruction is everybody should chant. Okay, so in terms of community, the general instruction is, if you can, make a nice community. But there's a lot of conditions that have to be satisfied for this to work. You yourself have to be fixed up. You yourself have to have leadership skills. You have to have good relationship building skills. You have to know how to do that, and you have to have, funding, and you have to have a place, and you have to have so many things. And it takes time. And right now we're like out of time. This is not a good time. It's a very, very bad time, for example, to buy land. Right now, land and real estate prices all over the world, even in India, are in a bubble. And yeah, they've come down a little bit, somewhat. But land prices are still high, even in America. So if you want to buy land now, you'd be buying at near the top of a bubble. And it means that the value of your land, the net worth of your land, is only going to go down from here. So this is not a good time to buy land. It's more of a time to seek safe harbor, is the term. Safe harbor is it's used in financial circles. It's also used in politics as a place where you can go that will be more or less immune from the fluctuations in the financial picture. Everyone is advising to go into gold. And then the question just remains like exactly how, So that's a detail. But the general principle, the general instructions, yes, we want to make communities. But how and where and when and in what order to do things, these are all details. And we have to work these details out on an individual basis. Not everyone is going to be in the same situation. I wish all of my disciples were strong enough and capable enough that I could just say, okay, go off and start communities everywhere. But, it's not really like that. We need to work out so many details of how it's going to be organized, how are we going to relate, like with the householders and the celibate monks, and, how's the whole thing going to be managed, and how do you build consensus, and all that. These things we are not very experienced in, and I don't want to send devotees off on a wild goose chase. I don't want to give them an impossible mission and then have them fail. That would be horrible. So we have to have one community that is fully developed, or at least far enough along that we have confidence of that, okay, this is how we're going to do things. This is what works. We know this works. I mean, I know what would work. But to get the ideas and the expertise out of my head and into everybody else's, that's not something that can just be done by words. It has to be an experience. And that's the training that we're talking about. So we're going to fix or set up to do this training, and then we can make that training available to everybody else also. And the question of exactly how we're going to do it, well, that's a detail. That's a detail. But these are the things that keep me awake at night. These are the things that I have to think through. I would really just love to start lots of communities. That would be great. But we're not in a time when it's possible to do that. So yes, we're going to do that, but it has to wait. It has to wait until the right time. We're not there yet. Let's be realistic. I'd rather have one community that is a success than 10 that fail. Or one community